You are standing in the most powerful city in the known world. The streets are full. The granaries are overflowing. The rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, curve around your walls like arms cradling something precious. Every trade route from the mountains of Anatolia to the coasts of the Persian Gulf passes through you. Every merchant knows your name. Every king fears your day. The city is called Agade, and within 100 years, it will be completely gone. Not conquered, not burned to rubble and rebuilt. Gone. Erased so completely that for the next 4,000 years, no one will be able to find it. Not the Greeks who came after, not the Romans who came later still, not the European explorers of the 19th century, not the satellite cameras of the 21st. So how do you erase the most powerful city in the world? Agade, also known as Akkad, was the capital of the world's first true empire. Around 2334 BCE, a man named Sargon of Akkad did something no ruler had ever done before. He did not just conquer a neighboring city-state, he conquered all of them. Every Sumerian city in the river valley below him. Then he pushed north into what is now Syria, then east into what is now Iran. He created a political structure that had never existed before. One ruler, one army, one administrative language, spanning a territory of more than 800,000 square kilometers. That is roughly the size of Egypt and France combined. Agade was the center of all of it. Heartbeat of the world's first empire. And for about 180 years, it held what ended it. The clue is not in a political document. It is not in a battle record. It is in the dirt. In 1993, a Yale archaeologist named Harvey Weiss published findings from a site in northeastern Syria called Tell Leilan, a city that had been occupied continuously for thousands of years. Weiss and his team found something buried in the soil layers dated to around 2200 BCE, a thick band of windblown dust. Not a fire layer, not a destruction layer, just dust. Fine, dry, wind-carried dust settling over everything. Over the streets, the buildings, the grain silos, with no signs of human disturbance above it. Tell Leilan had not been attacked. It had not been looted. It had simply been abandoned, and the dust had come in and covered it like a blanket. Why? The answer is what geologists now call the 4.2 kiloyear event. That is the scientific name for a catastrophic, abrupt climate shift that struck the ancient world approximately 4,200 years ago, around 2200 BCE. A sudden, sustained, not one bad season, not two. A drought that lasted potentially 2 centuries, spreading across a band from the Mediterranean to the Indus Valley, drying up rivers, killing crops, and collapsing the rain-fed agricultural systems that entire civilizations had been built on. Think about what that means for you. Standing in Agade, you are a city that does not feed itself by rain. The Mesopotamian Valley receives almost no rainfall. You feed yourself through irrigation, massive, sophisticated canal systems stretching for hundreds of kilometers, pulling water from the rivers and channeling it into your fields. Those canals depend on the rivers. The rivers depend on snowmelt and rainfall in the mountains far to the north and east. When that rainfall stopped, when the mountains stopped receiving snow in the volumes your canals needed, the water flow dropped. The canals silted up. The fields that fed your empire went from productive to dry to cracked within a generation. Your empire does not need an invading army. It is already dying from inside. The Akkadian Empire collapsed between approximately 2193 and 2154 BCE. In that window, the last king of Akkad, a ruler named Shar-Kali-Shari, lost control of the outer territories first, then the inner ones. The roads stopped being safe, the tribute stopped arriving. The garrisons at the distant outposts sent back word that the surrounding population had abandoned their villages and was moving. Moving toward what? No one was certain. Some toward the cities, some toward the rivers, some simply away. And Agade itself? There is an ancient Sumerian text, one of the oldest literary laments in human history, called the Curse of Akkad. Scholars believe it was composed around 2150 BCE, in the decades immediately following the collapse. It describes the fall of Agade not as a military defeat, but as something closer to abandonment. The granaries are empty. The great gate is sealed. The streets are silent. The boats are gone from the docks. The text reads as grief, as if the writer cannot fully process the fact that the most powerful city in the world has simply stopped being a city. And then, silence. No later text places Agade on a map. No later builder claims to have found its ruins and rebuilt on top of them, the way ancient builders almost always did. No Greek historian from the following millennium records visiting its site, though Greek historians recorded visiting Babylon, Nineveh, and dozens of lesser cities. Agade simply stopped being a location anyone could point to. Let us recreate one specific day, the last normal day you might have had in that city before the silence. It is approximately 2210 BCE. You are a scribe in the administrative quarter of Agade. Every day you manage the inventory records for the grain stores, clay tablets pressed with cuneiform, the wedge-shaped writing system that held the empire together. Today your count is slightly lower than last month. The chief administrator has already asked you twice about the numbers from the northern tributary canals. You press the seal carefully. You file the tablet in its correct position in the archive. Then you walk home through streets that are still full. The market is still open. The temple is still receiving offerings. A caravan has just arrived from the upper Khabur Valley with tin and lapis lazuli, the deep blue stone that only reaches your city from the mountains of what is now Afghanistan, traveling thousands of kilometers along trade routes that your empire controls. Everything looks exactly as it always has. But the numbers on your tablets know something the streets do not yet show. The grain is running short. The northern canals delivered 11% less water this season. Last season it was 9% less. Do you understand what a slope like that means? It means the numbers will not fix themselves. You do not know that your city will be gone in 2 generations. You do not know that the archive you are filing into will be buried under windblown dust and lost for more than 4,000 years. You only know that the numbers are wrong, and that nobody wants to talk about the numbers. Here is the twist that most histories skip over entirely. Agade did not vanish because the empire fell. It vanished because of where it was built. Unlike Babylon, which sat directly on the Euphrates and could survive reduced water by drawing from the main river channel, Agade is believed to have been located in a zone dependent entirely on secondary canals and tributaries feeding off the Diyala River, a river that drains the Zagros mountain range and flows southwest into the Tigris near what is now Baghdad. When those tributaries dried out, the city had no fallback. There was no main river to walk to. There was no secondary water source. There was only the dust. Robert McCormick Adams, the archaeologist and anthropologist who spent decades surveying ancient Mesopotamian settlement patterns, noted something striking about the Diyala River corridor. The density of occupied sites drops sharply after 2200 BCE. Not gradually, sharply. Entire corridors of villages that had been continuously occupied for 1,000 years disappear from the archaeological record within the same 2 or 3 generations. The collapse was not just of a capital, it was of an entire human geography. Now look at the modern map. The Diyala River runs today through the borders of Iraq and Iran. The area where Agade most likely stood is now crossed by political boundaries drawn in the early 20th century by European administrators who had never heard of Sargon of Akkad, who did not know that the ground beneath those lines had once been the center of the world's first empire. Can you see what that means? The Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916, the secret treaty between British diplomat Mark Sykes and French diplomat François-Georges Picot, divided the post-Ottoman Middle East into spheres of influence that became the modern borders of Iraq, Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon. Those borders cut across river systems, across ethnic territories, across the invisible archaeological maps of vanished civilizations, without the people drawing them ever knowing what was buried beneath. There is a city somewhere under that ground, the most powerful city of the ancient world, lying beneath land that modern states claim without knowing what they are standing on. Beneath every border is a buried geography. Beneath every name on a map is a name that came before it. Every city you live in today, every border you cross, every name you use for a river or a valley. These are layers. Beneath the name you know is another name. Beneath that, another. The city that was there before your city has not truly gone. It became the soil, the boundary drawn above it, the dust that settled and did not lift. You were standing in the most powerful city in the known world. You just did not know it, and neither does anyone walking that ground today.